nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And a moment of silence, please. Thank you very much. Welcome to our monthly meeting. It's good to be back, and however we're pulling it off. Obviously, many months we've been Zooming and inaccessible, so it's good to be back together. We are here to accomplish the business of schools for the sake of our students. We do want to hear from our citizens, and there's a time for public comment prior to any action items on the agenda. We ask speakers identify themselves and their home district. We also ask that their comments are limited to 3 minutes in order to provide equity to all speakers and to ensure our meeting is reasonable in length. If you have more information that can be summarized in 3 minutes, please provide leave-behind materials for the board's review. The moderator will ask you to conclude your remarks as the time has elapsed. If you have questions during this session, you may ask for clarification from a school board member or a school administrator once the meeting is adjourned. Thank you for coming. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda for this evening?
I so move.
We have a motion from Ms. Bynum. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second from Mr. Grove. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Mr. Ward, the donations. Madam Clerk?
Several donated $400 to the softball team. Brendan Cochran donated $30 to the Alamo Draft House, donated 2 admission tickets and 1 large popcorn for the after-prom party. The following donations are for the meal program. Putnam's Home and Garden Services donated Easter baskets for students. The Washington Volunteer Fire and Rescue donated Easter eggs to include in meal bags. The Rappahannock County Social Services donated goodie bags, including masks for students. Capital One donated 500 tote bags. Lauderpenny Farm donated tote bags. Giant and Warrenton donated 100 tote bags. Rosa Crocker and Molly Bailey donated 100 masks. Martin's and Food and Front Royal donated 50 reusable grocery bags. Martin's Food and Culpeper donated tote bags. Bell Ridge Farm, Mr. and Mrs. Grove donated tote bags. The Rappahannock County Lions Club donated tote bags. Jan Palmer and Richard Saul donated $100 to purchase grocery bags. And then Francis and Alice Bruce donated $2,000 to assist RCPS during the school closure.
Thank you. That's a lot of things to accept, and we will do it gladly. And there's a lot of folks pitching in, so thanks for that. I completely skipped. I don't know. I'm going to have the agenda right in front of me.
We have a special presentation tonight, a special recognition, and at this time, Mr. Word is going to come up, yes, and make a presentation, Mr. Word. That's a big one. She does. Yes, she does. Yes, she does. Come front and center, sir. Let's test this mic and make sure this mic where I'd like to be heard.
There it is.
There you go.
It works. So, on an annual basis, well, first of all, thank you for having me. My name is Kenny Ward. I'm with RRMM Architects. On an annual basis, we recognize the Superintendent of the Year as well as all of the 8 Regional Superintendents of the Year. Of course, this year, the conference was canceled, so I've been driving around making this presentation to the Regional Superintendents of the Year. Funny story, and I told this young lady back here, a couple weeks ago, Haiti Robinson was the Superintendent of the Year in Region 7. She's in Dickinson County. It took me 8 hours to drive to Dickinson County. I made a 3-minute presentation and turned around and drove 8 hours back.
No.
But it's worth it because these guys deserve recognition. So, at any rate, the Region 4 Superintendent of the Year is none other than Dr. Shannon Grimsley.
Right, that's right.
So this is our way, of course, annually of recognizing these great educators, but also giving back to the community. So I'm presenting her with the scholarship award that she will give to a student of her choice. And let me just tell you that she's greatly admired by her peers around the state. She's ultra professional, and she has a keen focus on student achievement. A round of applause. So, if I can have you come here.
Where's Holly? Holly, can we get a picture?
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
Oh, the other.
Congratulations.
Is it okay to take your mask long enough to get a picture? Can you? Hey, look, if you, hey, Mr. Word, if you're going to wear a mask, here, wear this one. It's brand new. It's brand new. Huh? Hold on a second. This picture could last a while. We want to make sure it's
Right, oh, yeah.
Yeah, make sure it's right side up for the picture. Is that all right? Is that all right? All right. All right. I'm gonna get in the back. Look, what's this called? Is it called when you sneak in on a picture? Oh,
Get me out of it.
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3, and let me do one more. 1, 2, 3, and then I have to get one with my camera. Okay.
All right. So now get him with
One
me
more,
out.
one more.
I'm gonna hide.
Ready? Great.
All right. Well done. All right.
Thank you,
That's
guys.
where. Have a pleasant drive home.
Thank you very
What
much.
is it?
Yeah.
Like 30
It'll
minutes?
take 40 minutes.
No, 30, 40
That's good.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, Board, we had quite a list of minutes that have been accruing over the last few months, and they were all in our packets. Is there a motion to adopt the minutes for March 10th, 24th, April 14th, May 12th, June 9th, all in one motion?
So moved.
We have a motion, Mr. Grove. Is there a second?
Second.
Second for Mr. Rubin. Is there any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Mr. Warder. Mr. Grove, did you have opportunity to review the bills?
I did, and everything's in order, and I move that we approve that item.
The bills are part of the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Do you want that one?
So moved.
We have a motion for Mr. Grove to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Second for Ms. Bynum. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. So ordered. Dr. Grimsley.
Thank you, Mr.
The
Mills.
famous Dr. Grimsley.
Oh, gosh, you know I love that. Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. 4.1 on the agenda is actually our annual update on our summer, on the actual meal pricing for the upcoming school year. So I'm going to invite Amanda Butler up to the microphone, and she will go through a little bit about the summer meals program as well as the upcoming meal pricing.
Thank you, Dr. Grimsley.
Maybe. There we go.
All right. So for this school year, we are not required this school year to follow the traditional USDA paid lunch equity tool, which has required us to raise prices by 10 cents. So we are recommending for the upcoming school year to keep all meal prices the same for staff and students coming up. So good news on that end. We also recognize that a lot of families may have different financial situations because of COVID, so we're really going to encourage the free and reduced meal application, which can be filled out at any point during the school year. It's located in all 3 offices, as well as online on our main page, which will be up and live soon. And then just a quick update on our response to feeding our students during our COVID-19 closure. We started serving students on the first school day of closure, which fell on Monday the 16th. And we did so through pickup here at the school as well as delivery to families. We currently serve on average about 110 students each week on Mondays, and they receive 5 breakfasts and 5 lunches, as well as a weekend backpack from the food pantry. So on the right, you'll see how many meals we've served each month. As of yesterday, we're just shy of 19,000 following yesterday's meals. So we have been busy, but it's gone really well. It's been an incredible community support, which I have on the next slide. So just a big thank you. We've had so many community members, school staff offer to help. On the first day, we put out our meal access hotline for families to sign up. I had more folks calling, how can I help, what can I do, what do you need, which is really a testament of our community. The first picture is our social services. They donated a goodie bag with children's masks, some of our food pictures. We have adult masks that were donated. Our drivers, including Wes, some bus drivers and Courtney, they've been instrumental every single week going out and meeting families. And it's also a really great way to kind of connect with the families, see if there's any resources they need. So I'll check in on Fridays to make sure they want meals again for the following week. And then we have our drivers going out and seeing them each week. So we've learned of some other needs that we've been able to help our families with, which has been really helpful. So. And then I'm also going to do a quick plug for our Pop Bucks market bag. This is with Commit to Be Fit in collaboration with a grant through the PATH Foundation. Every single Rappahannock student is eligible for a market bag, which is a CSA style bag at the farmers market in Sperryville, and they can get a produce, protein, mushrooms, and bread. So please, if you have a student or know a student, please encourage them to sign up. It's a really awesome program. This Saturday we'll hit our 100th student, so we're really excited. So.
Thank you, Mandy.
Thank you all.
Mandy has really been a superhero in all of this. She could anticipate what was going to happen and had her staff ready and prepared. I can't say enough about her staff in the cafeteria and how much they really did just have everything so organized and so ready to go, and nobody went hungry.
And it was always very accurate, and which, you know, when you're out on the pointy end of the stick delivering, and you know that Mandy's got everything worked out and the numbers are right and it's all getting in your car and you're out there on the road, it's important to be accurate and well done. Is this a good time to do something?
I think so.
Oh, Mandy,
I think it's
hold
a
on.
great time.
Oh, hold on, come away up. Can you come here?
Yeah, I can.
The board wanted to just say thanks, because a lot of people have done a lot of things during COVID, but you had to switch gears in a major way and adapt, and so we have a little gift for you.
I love my team, I just have to say. They're awesome. Our 4.2 on the agenda is our out-of-county tuition rate. So that has increased a little bit from last year. I'll pull that up for you. Oh, it's there already. All right, so after accounting our federal and state funds and the local effort, student tuition per year is $8,172.26. So I'll be asking for you to approve that rate so we can get that published and out when requested.
Right. Any questions on that?
Okay. 4.3, we do these every year. This is so we can make sure we have our processes straightened for our accounts payable, our general leave resolution, payroll resolution, our little $50 petty cash and how that's managed at the central office, unused sick leave, and the VPSA technology funds to be sure we're able to accept those. Those have not changed. Those are your regular annual resolutions. So I just wanted to bring those to your attention. I will also ask you to approve those later on in action items. All right. The moment you've all been waiting for. No. So 4.4 is the reopening plan. So I'll just bring up my presentation here. In 1 second. And we did try really hard. Committee reports were due to us Friday evening, and we got this thing out Monday, so everyone could try to see it before this meeting, and we could try to get some more feedback as well. That's been so important, so a few words about that. We are building a plane in the air, literally together as a community. Critical feedback is going to be crucial. It has been, and it will continue to be crucial as we move on. In this presentation, we just published this yesterday, I already have revisions to it because of those survey results and what that did for our buy-in input, because we're going to need a high level of buy-in to make this happen. This is going to take all of us. It's going to be a team effort. It's going to be a village. So we anticipate very much that as we implement and measure our effectiveness of some of these protocols, that we will also change it as we go. And of course, the state can always come in and say something that will change it and pull the rug right out from under us again. So just be mindful of that. So the buy-in factor, increased support for plan as much as possible. The revisions that we implemented in this increased staff buy-in by 25% and parent buy-in by 23%. And I'll show you what those tweaks were. And then a lot of responses, of course, were all over the map. If I had a 5-day-a-week option for everybody, then it would shoot way up over 80%. If I had, so there's a lot of those that we could not do at this time. But that's a great buy-in rate, and I couldn't be happier with that. Thanks to everybody who helped develop this plan. We are a tiny division, and we had 9 committees working on all of these facets. And I had some superintendents from other districts going, how many? How many did you have? You're how big? I'm like, well, there's no way we can handle all the pieces of this with one task force. There's just no way. It's too big. There's too many pieces. Here's the people that worked on those teams. But along the way also, we had surveys built in, and we tried to elicit feedback ongoing, and then people were very forthcoming as we were working on this, either to the committee members, to me, to school board members. So that's been really helpful. Keep that going. This is open communication. We want to know what's working, what's not, how we can make it better. Key health and safety points, the keys from the plan, and more details are in there, and we have also uploaded to Board Docs all of our committee working documents, so you can even see some more granular detail of a lot of how that will work. Even before we can operationalize a lot of this, we need the board to approve the broad plan, and then we can move back into the operational points, but these committees actually did do a lot of that work already, so we're very close to that. Daily health screenings for students and staff are going to be required. For the parents, we're going to ask that they take a quick assessment of their child's health every morning. And basically it's this: does your child have fever, chills, a new cough that wasn't there before, shortness of breath, or any difficulty breathing, or a new loss of taste or smell? If there's any of those things, you should not come to school. I must say in that too, we're going to be very, very flexible with attendance this year. We're not worried about excusing unexcused or whatever. We have remote learning options. Guess what? If you log in and do your work, everyone's present. That's the way I'm looking at it. So we're going to be very, very flexible with that. If they have anything or any concerns like that, keep your child at home. Nobody should come to school sick. If they do come to school with any of these symptoms, we have another procedure where we will have to put a mask, and we'll make sure there's a mask on. Isolate, contact parent, talk to VDH, the Virginia Department of Health, and work through a protocol with contact tracing should that symptom lead to a positive case. So there is a process for that as well. Cleaning and disinfecting protocols are going to be amped up big time, okay? So there's going to be, we've already purchased a lot of the equipment and materials and supplies that we need to use for that. We have equipment now that will allow us to very quickly sanitize a whole entire classroom, the whole playground. So that's going to be part of what we do. Air quality control and improvement is a big part of this as well. So we're working with Honeywell right now to improve our air quality. We're looking at ionization. We're looking at, we have already done some adjustments and to allow for additional air quality flow. Some things have been updated. We're going to update our filters twice as often. So a lot of that work too, to be sure we're having fresh air circulating. Face coverings discussion. Okay, so here's one of the revisions. We've received a lot of feedback about this. Now, in the plan, I do get a lot of questions. Why was it just 10 and up, and why only on those? Well, the reason was because that was the governor's recommendation originally. Executive Order 63 exempts school-age children who are going to wear face covering for an extended period of time because of the effectiveness. If you're wearing a face covering, we want it to be very effective. And the health guidance at the time, even the CDC recommends that the maturity level of students adds or takes away from the effectiveness, and it could actually hinder and be hazardous rather than be helpful. So we were looking at those. So the recommended in the plan was all students aged 10 plus required to wear face coverings on the bus. All staff wearing them when 6 feet of physical distancing is not possible, and all visitors required to wear a mask after the health screening. Now we've revised that based on survey results too, that all students should be required to wear face coverings on the bus, regardless of age, so just for the bus. All staff and students required to wear a face covering when 6 feet of physical distancing is not possible, or other mitigation strategies are not available, like the desk shields that we're putting in. So we did that on purpose because I don't think it's feasible or effective to assume that young children are going to be able to wear one of these all day long. And you know, the more they touch their face, and if it gets somewhere, now it's ineffective anyway. So we want to really promote the use, the proper use and consistent use of face coverings when we are transitioning, when we're in lines, when we're on the bus, when we know 6 feet is not going to be feasible. Now with our model with a 50% capacity, that's going to lower our class sizes to such that the physical distancing is not going to be an issue. In addition to that, we've also purchased desk shields. They're plexiglass desk shields that'll go along the desk on all sides like this. So that adds another layer of protection on top of that. So our thinking is that when students are seated in their seat, in the class, in their protective bubble, so to speak, they can take their mask down. And then not worry about it so much. So, but they will have to learn to wear them when they're transitioning, getting up, when I come within a certain distance of you. So that, and then of course all visitors again require a mask. So I know that was kind of a hot button issue, but we left it sort of vague at first, knowing that we were probably going to have more strict guidance on that. So those are the revisions that we suggest in the plan now. Any questions about that? Okay. Social emotional supports, this is going to be a huge part of this plan. Okay, so some of our kiddos have really experienced some significant trauma as a result of COVID-19, and a lot of our students, according to our own local data, are suffering from very high anxiety and some depression. And a lot of things like that. We've also seen an uptick in our DSS, Department of Social Services, Child Protective Services reports. So all of those things are very, very concerning. So as part of our initial soft reopening, coming back to school, we're going to spend a lot of time on this first. We can't really get to too much of the academics until we understand better the health and wellness and the emotional state of our students and staff. So we're looking at social emotional assessments to be able to do that. We're going to be checking in. We have additional counseling services already lined up and providers ready and willing to help with that. Extracurricular activities, we really do want to build into the schedule increased outdoor learning and extracurricular activities for students. That's going to be critical as we ease into this new normal. So being able to provide that. And time. Everyone's going to need time as we transition into this as well. Teachers, oh my gosh, they're going to be the superheroes of this because they have a lot to do and a lot to deal with, and they're going to need a lot of time. So you'll see our start date is pushed back by a few weeks. And we're building in additional teacher planning, training, and distance learning time for each week going forward. So every week there will be a full day dedicated that teachers have to be able to do that. And also, it's going to take us time to transition everybody into learning these protocols. It takes a while. So having our 50% capacity, like I put in the plan, and what's been recommended by all the committees, will really help us deal with a lot lower student population as we train everybody. All right, so here was the schedule for the soft reopening. I said was because from the survey results that we're ready to revamp that a little bit right now. So instructionally, it's a really good practice to have first day with group A on day 1, group B day 2 in person. So you do your initial, stuff for instruction, set up your rules and protocols. So that was the recommendation by our teachers. So we come at it from an educational lens, right? But we're not the healthcare professionals. A lot of the healthcare professionals and our surveys brought up the fact, well, if our ultimate goal is safety and health, then we should have the Wednesday remote learning deep cleaning day in the middle of the week, and with the group A meeting Monday, Tuesday, group B meeting Wednesday, Thursday, gives time in the middle to be sure there's not cross-contamination, and also it's easier to mitigate, contain, and contact trace should there be an exposure in either group. Makes perfect sense. It's perfect sense. Thank you, surveys. That was great. So we are making that recommendation.
That, just to be clear, that's, did you already do, or you've got a slide with that on?
Yes, I do. So the revised on my slide there would be the soft reopening where we do group A Monday, Tuesday, have Wednesday as the remote learning, deep cleaning, teacher support, planning day. And then Thursday, Friday would be our group B in school, and that gives us the Wednesday in between. So, now, the hope in a phase 3 model is to get all students in school as safely as possible, as much as possible. So we do have a 4-day hybrid model that we would explore, where all students are in school for those 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So both of those models will have options, of course, for students with disabilities and other special needs to apply for accommodations and more or less instruction, in-person instruction. So in this model, that's where we'd like to go, and that's where the state says we should try to go if it's safe. But, when is it going to be safe? When are we fully confident that everyone understands and can comply with these new regulations and our new norms? We don't really know that yet, and it may be next month's board meeting when I update you about this. We've got this. We can do it. The shields are in place. Everyone wants to wear their masks. Okay, let's move to it. But more likely scenario is we will be on the initial hybrid soft reopening for quite some time. So we'll be measuring the effectiveness, measuring all of that to be sure that it's working, and we may have to pull back if it's not and change some things. So we have to be flexible, as we implement this, and just be as agile as possible.
Dr. Grimsley, could I
Yes.
ask a question about this scheduling in light of face mask wearing? It's a strenuous thing to wear a mask, even sitting at a desk for a lengthy period of time. I was wondering if the committee had considered the possibility of a half day or a partial day attendance. I know that it could be disruptive, but I do. I mean, just having, I work 6 hours in a mask, and it's more tiring.
And if they had to do that, you're exactly right. So if they had to, but what we're recommending, if that's what the board approves, then I think we would have to try to look at a shorter time period. But some of these children will get very agitated by a mask within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So transition times when they're in a line, on the bus is probably going to be the longest they'll have to.
Yeah.
But when they're in their class, in their bubble, they can pull it down anyway. So it wouldn't be an issue. And at that time, now they're not worried about it so much, and they can do the full day. And we do want to incorporate more outdoor time, more extracurricular activities too. So in those cases, they would be able to not wear their mask if they're outdoors and being physically distanced, of course. But that's the rule. If you're within 6 feet of each other, there's no mitigation strategies, and during transitions, when physical distancing cannot be achieved, everyone must wear one. And that's the different recommendation.
And in order to reinforce such a policy, the teacher has a lot on his or her plate already.
Yes.
I'm curious about how, hall passing, any other thing. We have.
Well, here's my
people
thing,
who are
and I'll
ready
say
to
this
do.
as superintendent. The committees didn't work on that, but
Yeah.
if you're not keeping my school safe, you can go to remote learning. And that's just the way I feel. So if you're not following our protocols and you can't keep each other safe, we have the ability to put you on a remote learning plan, and that's what we have to do. You're still getting your education, but you have to keep us safe. So if that's the rule, That's what we're enforcing.
And will there be sort of a contract ahead of the school year for
Yes,
families
I
to
foresee
sign?
that, very much so, that's
Right.
something that will be understood and signed right at the beginning.
Just in verbal and with
Absolutely.
pictures and with
Yes.
what 6 feet really is.
Exactly, and we'll be doing a lot of training videos. We want to do a reentry video that will showcase what things look like,
Sure,
a day in the
video,
life, and
excellent.
we'll be releasing that later. And we will plan on we're calling every family. We don't want to do this by online and mail papers. We are going to call each and every one of you personally. And I'm going to have my own list, so you might get a call from me. And we're going to ask you some very specific reopening questions about your, what's going on. We want to explain it to you. See if you have any questions too, but also learn more about your individual situations. We've already been contacted by parents who want more remote or more in person for very legitimate reasons individually. So the only way we can really do that in a way that makes the most sense and have data quickly, we feel, is going to be calling. So as soon as you all approve this plan, that's what we're going to be starting on, is making those phone calls next week. So remote learning and instructional delivery, we are going to move one-to-one for all children. So all children will be assigned their own device. That makes it easier for us to train them while they're in the class, and then it's something they can bring home and work with at home. There will be a tech support line and an online ticketing system, professional development and training. Google is what we want to use as a universal platform. That's what all of the teams really came to as the easiest and best way to kind of keep everything together. There's so many children that are already very familiar. A lot of our teachers already use it. So it proved to be pretty valuable during Q4 as well. We will continue supporting our community hotspot hubs. We'll have a very consistent framework for blended learning. When they're in class on their in-person days, they'll be able to download content that they'll need on their digital learning day and get specific instructions from the teacher, which is something we didn't have the luxury of in Q4, which made it very difficult. Now, those on remote learning options will have a little different of a scenario, so we'll work that out with them as we find out more about who those children are. And then accommodations and flexibility. We do have a constitutional obligation to provide a free and equitable education to all students. So we really have to have open ears about our vulnerable student populations, as well as the unique needs of our families and our teachers. So we will be flexible, and we will work with people with their needs as best we can to make this work. For transportation, this was the surprising part, because this is the hardest part of every superintendent's plan. So we pulled ridership data, and this is where I love being so small. I do. This is one case I do. So a lot of our bus routes were under the limit anyway if one child sits per seat. And if they're wearing face masks and they have the barrier of the seat in front of them, that's a mitigation strategy that VDOE accepts. In that case, and siblings also can sit together in the same seat. So I told my 3, you all scrunch, you can get in there. So that helps. So there's only 2 bus routes. We think we'll need to send another bus with a sub-driver. And we have the buses and we have the drivers. So that it's not going to be the expense I initially thought that was going to be. We can run our regular routes and we can get kids to school on time. And home on time. However, we still want to encourage parents as much as they are able to pick up and drop off their children to try to lower that even more. We are in conversation with some local foundations and agencies that want to help with some before school and after school support to allow parents extra time to be able to drop off their students and pick up their students. So if staffing was here at 7 a.m., you come in, you get your health screening, then you can come in and be in your area with some professionals. Then that may help with that a lot. So we're in conversations with other agencies to help with us. But we were thrilled with that. So that's a huge budget expense for most divisions trying to make this work.
And I'm sorry for asking so many
okay.
questions, but one question is about, you have a lot of criteria for health, temperature taking, et cetera. Is the bus driver responsible to do that when the child gets on the bus, or is there an aide who's going to help with that? Or?
So we went back and forth on this a lot. This is what we talked about quite a lot. The staffing on that would be very, very difficult.
It would be, yeah.
So what we've decided to do is, the parent, of course, has to do their self-check. Student comes in their assigned seat on the bus. Nobody enters the school building from the bus without their health screening. So our staff will be waiting for the buses, get on the bus, physically do the check before anyone comes in. So it's still very containable on one bus. And I mean, the bus driver can take a quick look assessment, but the bus driver has a lot of responsibility. We don't want to put that on them. Ideally, yes, if we had enough staffing and volunteers and whatever that could be trained to do the health assessments every single day, every morning, that would be wonderful, and we could do it. But feasibly, we know we can have staff available to help with those screenings in the morning. We're talking to RAPC as well, to have nursing students help with those screenings as well, who need a lot of intern hours, so that's going to be very helpful as well. But yes, that's the plan as of now. Meals and feeding program, the meals will be eaten in the classroom. They will be pre-ordered and delivered to younger grades pre-K through 2. And then grades 3 through 12 may still go through the line, but we're replacing the touch keypad, which I've always said that's like a petri dish in the cafeteria that everybody touches, and then so we've replaced it with a little key card reader that no one's going to have to touch. Thank goodness. And here's the other thing. Yes, students may still pack their own lunch. Okay, I know there was something going around. Some people were like, no, you're going to, yes, you can still pack your own lunch. I know many kids in the school who will not eat unless they can pack their own lunch.
I had another question about
ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm just like full of questions.
No, that's
tonight.
good.
There's a lot of questions coming through my mind and through other parents, since I'm a
Excellent.
parent at the school.
Yes.
Wondering about eating outside. If we could even put up some kind of event tents or something where people could have the option of eating outdoors it's good for reducing mental health problems. It could be, just having that flexibility could be a pretty, it'd be interesting. I think it could elevate people's mood rather than staying in the classroom all day.
Right, so we will be looking at more outdoor opportunities as we do this, because we know that's better, it's healthier anyway. So of course, everything pending weather and all of that. But we do have teachers that do that already. Even pre-COVID days, they want to
most
bring.
students don't get the chance to do that. There are a small number of teachers who do that, but not consistently. And just saying we have teachers who do that doesn't mean that all the students actually do that.
Yeah, as part of what we do, yes, we could certainly look at that and maybe do a rotation where certain classes can go outside at certain times. But
having more space outdoors, that would be inviting to eat outside, could be a healthy addition and inexpensive as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep, great thought. Athletics and activities, there's still so much unknown in this area right now. So we have commenced with the pre-workout and contest screenings. We have limitations there. There's extensive hygiene and cleaning protocols. Of course, sanitization of equipment and modified practice for those sports that are a higher risk. But we are waiting on BHSL Thursday? Tomorrow, finally. Okay, so tomorrow, hopefully we get a little more guidance about that, so we can know what to tell children about sports and contests and things. Human resources and policy implications. Staff are going to be required to document their own health screenings. So there's numerous ways that we're looking at to do that. There's apps they can do. There's checklists they can keep, a simple spreadsheet, just so we have documented that they've checked. So, and they sign an attestation before they come back to the workplace to say they're healthy. There'll be individualized supports for teachers, and we've already had some teachers contact us with legitimate reasons that we'll need some of those accommodations. Now, those accommodations could be, additional PPE or personal protective equipment in the classroom because of a high health risk. It could be, something that may keep them at home. It varies so much. It could be, I just need a modification of my job duties. I'm in the cafeteria, I'm in a high-risk category. I can't be on the line with all those kids. Put me in the back, I can do this. Whatever it is. So we have different ways to deal with that. Again, individualized. We're talking to every employee. We're asking them to please reach out to us if they have any concerns or with that. And they've already started to do that, so that's very good. Commit to Be Fit wellness program, if ever it was needed, it's right now. We're going to continue to have a concentration on the wellness of our staff, health and wellness of our staff, students, our community. That's what that grant was built to do, and we're going to put it to work this year. I will say that. Professional development, we do need a lot of time for that. That's why we wanted 3 weeks with our teachers. So that's 3 weeks of planning and training and anything else they might need. So that's in there. Plus, we have a day a week where they can have extra time. And then again, flexibility. That's the word that every one of us are getting used to. We have to be flexible. We have to adjust. I'm sure once we start this, the teachers are going to talk to us and say, okay, whoa, great idea on paper, but this is not going to work this way. Here's a better way to do it. They always do that, and it's always perfect. So I can't wait to see what they come up with. But remember, again, staying agile and alert. We are in phase 3. That's where we're planning for, okay? So these are the things we're allowed to do. We were allowed to do a whole lot more than this, but we scaled back because we want to make sure we're as safe as possible. If we revert back, if the governor says Virginia's in phase 2, we would go back to a remote learning for most students with prioritized education for pre-K through 3rd grades, students with special needs, and our English language learners. And then phase 1, of course, was back to quarter 4. Everyone's remote with very, very limited in-person instruction. So those are the biggest pieces of the plan that we need approval on before we can really get into the nitty-gritty. And if you look at any of the committee reports, you'll see the amount of work that these people have put into it. And I could not be prouder of those teams. They really worked very hard, a lot of hours, and turned it around very quickly and did their research. So I appreciate all the work that everyone did. I appreciate the community giving us very honest feedback. Keep it coming. We need that. We're critical friends. It's okay. We can be critical of each other and still be friends. So questions?
So we had advertised that tomorrow evening we were going to have a work session, right?
Yes.
To bring things to a conclusion, make motion on our plan for this school year. And it's going to be out in the courtyard. Is that true?
It is.
Right here? Tomorrow night at 6:30. And so I just want to make sure we're clear about the expectation. For our plan for tomorrow night is to say, here's the reopening plan, here's the date, here's the approach in these areas, right?
Right.
And we just need to make sure we're all fully aware that built into that is the need to mature it or to regress,
Right.
depending upon what we see when we implement the reopening, right?
Correct.
So that's part of the plan. The part of the plan is being agile once we implement the plan.
Right.
So even though we say it's AABB and August 24th and this is how we're doing lunch or whatever, all of that can shift before we get back at this table again, right? Depending upon the metrics that we capture, right? That's all something we all need to be clear about. It's not a rigid, actually soft reopening is probably the right word, right? It is soft.
Flexible reopening.
Very flexible.
Yes.
So, also, I had some questions about, I see a lot of things that are going to need to happen in the cleaning area, in the nursing area, in the driver's area, in the possible need for substitutes and long-term substitutes area.
That's right.
And so all of those financial impacts are also considerations that we're going to have to build into the plan, and we're ready to consume those costs.
Correct. And when you look into the work committee documents, there are bigger costs should we shift to the full 4-day. If we keep it this way and we're able to use our systems, we feel very strongly that we can maintain this plan within our budget and knowing we have our additional CARES money. So we've tried to be pretty conservative with that. The Board of Supervisors have been excellent to help us offset some of those COVID response related costs. So that's been very helpful. And we do have a request into them right now that they will consider on Monday for the revision of our auditorium at the high school to provide more room for physical distancing. And it was on the capital improvement plan anyway for the following year. And then devices to put Chromebooks in the hands of every child, 4th grade and up, right? 4th? Second and up, okay, so 2nd grade and up.
Great.
And then iPads for pre-K through 2nd, so,
Oh, good, good.
yeah.
Also, the idea that our students are going to have an SOL in front of them, or that we will be gauged on attendance, all of those things are out the window this school year,
Yes,
I would hope.
they haven't all been approved yet, but yes, the state does intend to waive all of those requirements. There still may be some federal requirements we have to make, but I'm sure there'll be flexibility with those.
The last thing I wanted to mention was the way I've had to go to work recently is we drive up to a tent on the base, and they ask me 2 questions, sometimes 3. Basically, have you had a fever in the last 24 hours or developed? And they ask the same things that we ask, by the way, taste and smell. And then they ask you if you've been around anyone who's had these attributes the last 48 hours. And then they take this radar gun and shoot me in the head, right? And they say you're good to go. Your temperature is 87 point something, right?
You better hope it's higher than that.
It is, because it's either a little high because I've been driving with the window down, or it's really cold because I had the air conditioning hit me in the face. All I want you to know is that whole idea of taking somebody's temperature with a radar gun, it's not effective. And I wouldn't want us to put a lot of faith in trying to implement something that's just not real, right? You're going to do better at making sure parents know we have to be accountable to the safety of the population, and asking simple questions, because my temperature reading is not a faithful metric. When you do it with a radar gun to my forehead after sitting in the car for an hour and a half, right?
Yeah.
So it's just an interesting thing to remember. Let's not implement something that's not, it's not helpful, and it just creates work for people. So we need to think about how to tackle that a little better.
And that's tier 2, as soon as we do the health screening, if it happens here, tier 2 is one of our nurses. He does a further screening of that child, and temperature will definitely be a critical part of that with reliable tools.
With the reliable tools.
Yeah.
I think they do now have reliable
A
tools.
reliable tool, it takes longer than, you're good to go,
They do it in the airport all the time.
Yeah, but.
Yeah, well, the other aspect of temperature.
I have a couple things.
Yeah.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Okay. Temperatures was one of my first things. I truly believe we should be taking everybody's temperature.
How would you do it?
You do it with the thing that we use in the rescue squad. It just puts it right there. Gives it within 2 seconds. You got a temperature. And you do it as they get off the bus or get out of the car. I would think there's a way of doing it. If you're going to have a person enter the bus, and they could take the temperature as the kid's getting off the bus. You don't have to tell them what it is. You don't have to tell them that it's low. You only have to know if one is 102.
Well, and if, in that case, the reason we stayed away from that on this one was the thought of everyone coming in and getting their temperature checked. But if we had staff with each one having that, it might be a possible thing to do on the bus before any kid gets off, and it wouldn't take much time. We will require staff to take their own temperature and jot that down on their
Exactly.
sheets, but
I just think it's, if I have 3 kids and I'm trying to get them off to school in the morning, I'm not going to be taking their temperatures every morning.
Well, I would only say it's good to take some baby steps before we.
Well, I don't think,
Commit to
personally, I
something
just think
that's
that's a
not
good way to go.
I agree. Can I say something?
Sure.
I agree with Larry, because I know the desire to come to school for some kids is going to be
Overwhelming, yeah.
they're just going to say, yeah, I feel fine. So you've got to have some way to double check, and temperature reading would be one way. I mean, there may be other ways.
Well, that's probably the most concrete.
The other aspect of temperature taking, I think it is a good metric, but we know that there is a lot of spread without anybody having a fever or sometimes a subnormal temperature, which is why, to me, the most important thing is to have very consistent and constant adherence to things like being very careful about masks and social distance. I agree that screening is important, but there will, there are a lot of the community spread happens with people who are feeling fine, but share a drink or are close to each other or singing together, etc. That's how it can happen when everybody feels fine.
I was pleased also to see that the revision that masked for everybody. That's a good revision.
Yeah.
Secondly, or thirdly, I guess, I know I've had parents call me and they're concerned that will one of their kids be an A and the other be an B. And
Not unless you want
I've
them
said a
to.
little prayer and said, I hope that's not true.
No.
Families would be all A or all B.
Yes, because we do have several instances where, students have different last names. The
Right.
easiest way is to pull last names A through J, Group A, L through, but it's going to change based on numbers and how many we have remote learning, how many need more time. I forgot to mention too, staff members' children will have the ability to be 4-day instruction, because that was a huge barrier for a lot of our workforce to be able to work, teach, and then have their children home on a day. It just wouldn't work. So they will have that option too. If it will be available.
And could we set, I know that we're going to talk about it in each of our meetings, but maybe we could set a date in the September meeting that says, that'll give us a clue as to how we're doing from that perspective.
A date as far as how.
A report back date.
Oh, I think we should do that every meeting.
Okay.
That should be every school board meeting, we will do an update. Here's what we measured, here's what worked, here's what didn't. Public comment, tell us what you thought, all of that. So I think that needs to be on every standing agenda item every month.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll make sure that's every month. But
Yeah.
I can say that I think this is just a fantastic plan. I think the people really worked hard.
It is, and you know what? I've been reading some other counties' plans, and I think this team, the assembled team, has done an amazing job.
Well, I watched Fauquiers last night, and they're not anywhere close to where we are.
Oh, really? Wow.
Well, thank you.
Dr. Grimsley. So our goal is to transition to the 4-day as soon as we can, or as soon as we safely can.
As soon as we
Correct.
safely can, and we're sure that our protocols can be followed consistently, because we measured it out in a way, and we have it in such a way that we could bring in our whole student population safely with the barriers. It wouldn't be 6 feet, but it would be the 3 feet with barriers, which is a variance from the 6 foot, if everyone comes back on that model. But we want to make sure that everything is working properly and we can safely transition. But yes, that's the optimum model that we're reaching for, right?
What do we need to meet to get to that model?
What we need
Ideally.
to meet, we have to know that there's compliance, first of all. It's going to be a really tough transition, but we have to really, the human behavior piece of this is huge. And we've seen that in some events and things that it's pretty difficult to manage, and people really have a lot of training to do and habit forming before it's going to be really ingrained. So we're not sure the time frame on what that's going to take, but until we're comfortable that people can comply, understand that children can manage, it's not overly burdensome and stressful, and we adjust. So it could be a few weeks we're ready to switch to that, but it could also be, it might be all semester we're in this model if we're still learning and growing. But families do have the option to apply for 4 days if there's a hardship, if they have a vulnerable student population, if they have that ability with those criteria. So we'll work with families to see.
It just seems to be a huge amount of stress on a lot of families trying to juggle childcare, trying to juggle going to school, trying to keep up with their children's instruction on the days that the children are remote learning. Not everybody gets the new math. It doesn't seem to be. And then there is a lot of stress and fear for parents, whether it's there or it's not. And for the children themselves, I've heard kids on, talking, little kids talking about that they're all going to die from coronavirus. Everybody's got it hyped up. So it would be nice to get them into I hate to say a routine, but at least a familiar environment where they can excel, where they can learn. A lot of kids, at least the ones that I've talked to, and parents seem to have struggled with remote learning. It was a huge obstacle for them. So the sooner we could get back to at least a 4-day-a-week with the deep cleaning, I think we would be the better. Personally, I don't think a lot of children outside of the sphere of Rappahannock, I guess. But in the real world, kids are out here playing all the time together anyway. So I know we need to take the guidelines and be safe, but we're not putting masks on the preschoolers and on the first graders. They're going home to the same houses. We need to remember at the end of the day that they're kids, and they're not going to be robots, and it's never going to be 100% the way anybody thinks it should be. So the flexibility is a good word for it. There's got to be a lot of it because these are children, and everybody's got needs, and everybody's got a little different quirk on how they learn. And remote learning really puts a strain on how little Johnny's going to pick up that new math equation or that new formula or whatever it is. So the sooner we can get back to a regular normal, not a new normal, the better we'd be.
And you brought up a great point. The stress and anxiety is something we need to measure and take very, very seriously. And with smaller numbers, that's easier to manage at first. But, it's like before the first day of school, those funny butterflies and anxiety you get in your tummy, and I get it still. But my children do the same thing. They get those tummy and their anxiety. And then they get here and they have their structure, they have their routine, they have their friends, and it goes away. So that's something we're going to look at from a sense of our school family too, because everybody's very, very tense and anxious right now. So what's our comfort level? What's our trust level? Do we feel safe enough? Can we move forward? But we'll make that decision together and be sure those things, we can answer yes to those questions.
It seems like some aspects of what you're talking about really depend on whether there's a lot of community spread of the virus. I mean, we're in a condition now where we have over 30 cases of COVID. 20 of those occurred in the last 7 days. So we have a death. I mean, so it's what we do here for sure, but it's really a whole community decision.
It is, yeah.
About how we're going to behave. Are we going to behave in ways that will promote more outbreaks in our community, or are we going to be helpful in attaining the goal that we all have, which is I'd love to have 5 days a week school, but I also know that there's no cure for COVID. I also know that we're not close to having a vaccine, so I really do, we need to come together, we need to come together with these, not just in the school, but within our community, and it's hard to imagine how that might look. in some places you go, it's happening, and in some places you go, it's not.
Now, interesting models that we've been studying in our superintendent study groups led by the State Department have been very, very interesting, because why are they making the recommendations they do? Lots of questions like, State, why don't you just pull the plug? Why are we even thinking about bringing kids back, right? So what they've been doing is studying their insights from abroad and all these different countries that have brought kids back to school as early as April. So they've been studying those models, and in every case, aside from two, the reopening of schools did not cause any difference in the trend of COVID spread rate. So that's why they feel comfortable. A lot of states are moving forward with that. Two countries that had issues, I believe, were Belgium and Israel, based on, and they tied it all to preparation and communication and engagement. They came up with their national plan. They gave everyone 2 or 3 days, and then schools went boom. And then, yeah, of course, that's going to be a little rough. But that's where the data is coming from. They monitor that very, very closely, learning some really good mitigation strategies. That's where they develop the guidance. So we have really good evidence that suggests that the reopening of schools is definitely more beneficial than not. We need some version of that, but we have to do it safely, and we have to be sure we can. That's the part that keeps me up at night, is I can make it as safe as it can be, but I can't promise it's going to be risk-free, and I wish I could. But there's no magic bullet to do that. So we're going to work together, and it's going to be all hands on deck to make sure we can make it as safe as we can together. And then when we're all comfortable and we think it's where we can move forward, that's when we will. But I'm not comfortable doing that until we're sure.
And that is what we're going to be deciding tomorrow night. And
Yes.
that is
Yes.
based on the information we have now, based on any feedback we get between now and tomorrow evening,
Correct.
to adapt and adopt something, right?
Yes.
But it's based on an August 24 start
Yes, we've pushed back the
and
date. Yeah.
the revised soft dates
Yes.
for students at the school and the transportation. Each plan you can see. So if there's exceptions, we manage exceptions. But the general plan will be the general plan.
Right.
Can I say something to Chris's point? Has anyone contacted the churches to assist families that need childcare on the off days and the possibility of the whole minister group getting together and seeing what we can do as a community
Right.
to help? I know there's people that are going to be struggling through this.
Yes, so we've
Yeah.
engaged, we've started, actually, I just sent that email yesterday to some of my friends out there that we need to work on a plan. I know this has grant funding tied all over it that I know we could go after to try to make this happen. So yes, we're starting those conversations, but I need a plan approved first before I
Okay,
know
good.
how to
Oh, yeah.
write that. So once we get that, we'll move forward.
I mean, if we could acquire a grant to pay people and use church facilities that
Yeah.
are safe, then parents would have another option for the off days.
And that's kind of the idea that I'm looking for. We have 3 areas where I know we're going to need some assistance before and after school with the
Right.
help if we open up for that parents and on Wednesdays, for those remote learning days. So,
Is the school still looking at 7 a.m. and up till 5:30 p.m.?
Yes.
Is that still an option?
that's what we would like to do, but we have to make sure we have those systems in place, yeah.
Has anybody figured out what that would cost?
Well, if we staffed it, we can calculate that, but we're going to try the option first to
Okay.
see. It looks very promising that we have support for that.
Okay.
That would be
I
outside
mean,
funding.
we should.
I would think the reservation with something like that would be that you don't want to have a bunch of children congregating in one institution for a certain fixed number of hours because there's a great liability there. And so the better model would be something more modular with smaller numbers.
Right. Right.
All right, all good things. Thanks for that. Thanks for all the team members that
they were
pulled together, and thanks for assembling that. I think that was that Thursday night from midnight to 4 or
Friday night.
Friday night?
And Saturday, and I figured, I might write a graduation speech real quick and
Graduation
then go
speech in
back.
the middle of it. All right, well, thanks for that.
No, it
And,
was great,
and-
lot of effort.
And we'll conclude that work tomorrow night, in case you're curious. 6:30 in the courtyard.
Yes.
Here.
All right, so 4.5, a quick note that we will be establishing here an equity team. And this is just something that is very good to do at this point in time, and it's good to do continuously anyway. We do a lot of reporting out with the Office of Civil Rights, discipline data, crime and violence, all those reportings that we do and look at internally. But I'd like to establish an equity team to continue to review data, some policies and practices with a critical equity eye, an equity lens, to make periodic recommendations to the administration for policy practices, code of conduct, speaking to students and teachers and those in our school community, just to be sure that we're practicing what we've always preached, is that we do provide an inclusive and safe school environment for all of our students. So that's the goal. Dr. Robin Bolt will be leading that team, and very soon she will be soliciting members of that team to look at those things. It's very important, and as a former English as a second language teacher and special ed teacher, it's very important to me that we be sure that equity is a focus of all that we do. So, and my whole team, I think I speak for all of us, that we have that same vision.
That's a great idea.
Looking forward to that.
Glad you're
Thanks,
doing
yeah,
that.
thanks, Robin. Dr. Bolt.
And that concludes the superintendent's reports. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Moving on to 5.1, is there a report from the Headwaters representative?
There is a report, Mr. Mills. I spoke with, we had our meeting over the phone. The first item was about a PATH grant that Headwaters has received to expand their after-school program to 4 days and combine with remediation. Obviously, this is on hold until we just make our decisions, but but Headwaters stands ready to assist us. And they're very flexible in their planning. So we're so grateful to have their support.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's true.
And their extra hours in this time, just like all of our school staff are working extra hours, Headwaters is helping a lot. And the Headwaters camps are at the Rappahannock County Park. They're in full swing in their second week, and they've been a lot of fun. I actually was over there today and got to see juggling, and I got to see a watershed activity. The teen counselors and adults, they're enlisted at about a ratio of 4 students to 1 staff, and the biggest challenge is keeping social distance. These are people who are friends and buddies, and I didn't see very many 6-foot spacings between friends, so it does draw to light some of the huge challenges. You know, that's in an outdoor setting. It's an interesting thing, but the kids are so happy there, and I enjoyed seeing it and being there. And it's amazing how many people have come together. Individuals, clubs, volunteers are making a huge effort, and this pulled together at the last minute program that's so valuable for our students' learning.
2 weeks. Okay.
And that's what I have.
Thanks. Is there a report from MVGS?
Yes. The Mountain Vista Governor's School, we had a virtual meeting. It was primarily an administrative meeting to create, chairman and vice chairs and all that kind of stuff. And it looks as though Mountain Vista is going to start as all virtual to begin with. And I think they're starting August 10th or something of that nature.
Wow.
But they're talking 2 to 3 weeks of all virtual. And they'll see where the community colleges, how they fall in line.
Interesting. Thank you. The policy committee, so during the time we've been virtual, we've been essential business only mode, which means the agenda is very tight and a lot of stuff was in a holding pattern. And I believe we never actually reviewed these, right? So these are tabled?
They
Are we
were
voting
tabled
on
from
this?
last.
They were
we-
tabled before.
Well, we put them up there for review. No, you could not take any action.
We couldn't take action.
But
So-
just a review, yes.
So we're ready tonight
Yes.
on action items to take an action which has been pending for some time.
Yes, yes, sir.
And on these policies. Is there any comments or from the policy committee on these at all? I'm supposing the policy committee's in favor of passing these.
Yes, and I
All right.
read them all, and they were long and boring.
Long and boring. So the lawyers in Richmond are successful. Right. Great, thanks. So it's that time of year where we have to have a VSBA delegate and alternate to pick, right? And I think,
There's no meeting, right?
There is not.
there isn't?
Well, there is, but it's virtual. It's
They're
going to be
virtual.
Yes.
If you're all,
So, but there's still going to be some type of,
Yes,
so we still have to appoint someone?
yes, you do.
Yes, right. So, we have any volunteers for such a thing? Delegate to the
does it mean
VSBA?
you have to attend the virtual meeting?
Have to attend the virtual meeting.
I don't want to do it.
Will you do it, Larry? I would
Larry
nominate
did
Larry.
it last year, and Pug was alternate, right? Or
I
not?
would nominate
Were
Pud.
you?
I was not.
You were not.
I've been the delegate for 4 years, 5
Okay.
years.
Would you like to not do it again?
You want to relinquish that? Is that what you're saying?
I'll continue with it. Go ahead.
Consistency is a blessing.
You can do it. Yeah, I like it.
I'll do it.
And do we have an alternate?
Of course, I'll do it.
Yeah? Great. Did you get that, Amy? They confessed publicly. They're willing to do that. Thank you both.
Thank you.
And we'll vote on that during action items as well. All right, moving on to public comment. Before we get started, Amy has, we still have been advertising if you, and this was a leftover from when we were in virtual mode, if you wanted to send us an email, that we would enter it into the record as public comment because of the Zoom sessions that we were having. And so now that we're back to normal, we probably should not be doing that anymore. But for now, we have got one that was sent to us, and we're going to have our clerk read it to us. This is public comment.
Okay, this public comment was sent to me by Michael Kazar. He's a bus driver for RCPS. And he says, his comment is, if masks aren't required for children under 10 and children are believed to be more asymptomatic, doesn't this mean half of the elementary school could be easily spreading the virus to other students, staff, parents, and grandparents? Has anyone considered the impact of flu season plus COVID-19? I don't want to seem rude, but the proposal feels like a very light touch. I would much prefer more caution instead of appealing to those that just want to go back to work or don't want their children wearing masks. I want to get back to driving a school bus, but I already know parents send their children to school sick, and driving children around for 2 hours a day with no mask does not feel like safety first.
All right, thank you, Amy. But I think we've addressed that as well.
I hope, yeah.
I think that's been addressed. All right, is there anyone else who would like to address the board this evening? Anyone? I'm going to ask you to rise and come to the podium, and there's the school nurse doing her thing.
Good evening, I'm Gary H. Hampton District, and I come tonight as Chair of Headwaters. I want to first acknowledge and thank the superintendent for her leadership role in helping a group of people who came together in 3 weeks to put together 3 different camps at 3 different sites. Headwaters took the leadership for what we call Summer in the Park at the county's park. Another group took responsibility for the group that's over at 4-H in Front Royal because of the lack of utilization of that facility. The 4-H folks were very generous in making it available to Rappahannock County. And then there's a third piece that's taking place at Verdun. But none of this could have happened really without the superintendent's involvement and support, and most importantly, the board's approval, because you all became the sponsor. And while there were many, many people in the county willing to help, none of us felt that we were in a position really to take on the technical and legal responsibilities of being the sponsor. So far, we're finishing, in the middle of the second week. It's going well, but I would caution the board that despite all the best planning and lots of people giving us great information, the health department, Richmond, looking at summer camps, other places, looking at childcare everywhere. We thought we had it pretty well covered. Most of our volunteers were very impressed that the planning and the protocols were in place to keep everybody safe and healthy. But our early experience is it is much, much more challenging with children than any of us thought. And all we had to do was remember our own days when we had little kids at home trying to keep them at the table for dinner or not running around the house playing or whatever. So what happened is we've increased staff to student ratio, we've increased the number of staff reducing the ratios. Because what we've discovered is, and I hate to use this word, but in many ways it's more like therapeutic education. These are brand new practices, these are brand new concepts, these are brand new environments for these children. They've never experienced anything like it. We haven't either, but we have the benefit of being adults. So for a child that was at home, who for the first time now is in this public environment with other kids, they don't know what social distancing is. They don't know how to wash hands or wear masks. So like any other behavior, you model it, you practice it, and you reward it. But you can't do that on the first day. You might not even be able to do it in the first week. So we've tried to help all of our volunteers, the parents, everyone involved in this. We are mitigating risk. We are not eliminating risk. We will do our absolute best to balance the risk of children locked up at home and the children playing together at a camp. We're outdoors, so fortunately all the advisements for health and safety when you're outdoors are different if you move that indoors, if this had been a regular indoor camp because of the heat and we were in air-conditioned space like we once had planned, we couldn't have done it. We could not meet the criteria. So while I am supportive of anything that helps children learn and their social and cognitive development is clearly benefited by getting back to school as soon as possible, I would caution you to be flexible and to expect that things will occur in the first several weeks with teachers, with staff, with students and families that none of us fully understood or expected. So it will take the whole community saying, how important is it for our children to get them back in an educational system, and how willing are we to support whatever is necessary at home, on the way, at school, and after school to make it happen. But again, thank you for your support of the summer activity, which we're viewing sort of as a pilot. And thank you especially to the superintendent for her leadership, her guidance, and her support. It's a good way to start, and we're hopeful. But there are some serious concerns out there that we just all have to acknowledge. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Anyone else? Courtney, if you want to speak. Just, no. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Lenny Janot, Stonewall Hawthorne, is that what we are, Larry?
You got it.
I want to stand up as a parent and ask some questions, and I don't know that this is the forum to have them addressed, but I just want to express some concerns and ask specifically relating to the virtual option that you said would be available there, as to how that will be carried out. It's hard to make a decision to send your kids back to school when you really don't know your options, which we all are feeling that tonight, I feel like. But I would like to hear a little bit more talked about the virtual option, as to whether or not the same things will be taught in the classroom that are taught virtually. Will we have teachers dedicated to that way? And is that an option for everybody that is interested in that? Also, are these options flexible, and can kids pick to be virtual in the beginning and then see how you guys have planned it out? Can we jump back in? Can we jump out as needed? And is there any chance at extracurricular activities for virtual people, as you talked about wanting to get back to the extracurricular outdoor learning? Is there a way to be flexible, as we know this is kind of an exciting time in the flexibility? I think it's reshaping the way that we look at education and the way that we will look at education in the future. And I know I've always been a strong component of don't let school get in the way of your education. But I think this is a great way to put the community and the school together to say, how can we make the best of the situation, not just situation, but moving forward, how can we help these kids learn with all the tools we have, especially the virtual tools that we've been given? So I'd love to hear more about that.
All right. Thank you very much. Yeah, we'll speak to that as best we can this evening, and it's good to hear the perspective, because we know it's out there, right? We know other people are having the same ideas. Questions? Yes.
Okay, so my name is Cassie Gaynor. I believe under Mr. Grove's jurisdiction. So I'm currently going into my junior year this year, which is not an easy year. I have my SATs to prep for, college applications, trying to get scholarships and trying to do that. And I would like to look at the different kind of stability that maybe going all completely virtual would give versus the hybrid days. I know that this is supposed to be better than when we had to abruptly cut off in, what was it, April, somewhere around there? March. When we had abruptly cut off, but that was really, really hard on me and on most of my other friends that had to do it. And 10th grade year, you can kind of shimmy through that and figure it out. But this is, the classes I'm taking are a lot of AP, a lot of dual enrollment classes. So I want to know if there's an option to go on virtual Virginia completely. What are our options there? And then with the one-to-one devices, I know that my family, we don't bring in outside electronics. We don't, it's on our Wi-Fi, it's hooked up to our personal things. So we've invested in our own laptops and our own things for schooling. So I want to know if there's a possibility that we can opt out of the Chromebooks, which also, I assume some of you guys have used Chromebooks, and some people really, really love them, but I find them to be a pain to deal with. A lot of my classes have Word, and they use Microsoft Office. A lot of my dual enrollment classes do, which Chrome does not do. So those are kind of a pain to deal with, and we don't bring them in. So I was wondering, I know that we had Wi-Fi issues at the high school last year that we were trying to figure out, And I want to know that if my laptop will transfer over when I come to school, if I do. And how will I be able to do that? And then the other thing was, if we're doing the extracurricular things, I understand that we're trying to make that more of a prominent point, but from years of doing pride clubs and things, I love them and I love being part of extracurricular things. They have never worked. We have always said we were going to make this work and we're going to have all these things, and meetings kept getting in the way and other things got. I think I went to probably 3 meetings for my pride club in the space of a few months, and that was it because they kept getting canceled. So I want to I would like more clarification on how we're going to implement that, if possible. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Kate.
Great job.
It's good to hear from a student.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Hold on. Good job, Kurt.
Why don't you take that chair?
Hi, I'm Shannon Ennis with Hampton District, and I'm kind of here
Could you
to
step a little
represent.
closer?
Can you get a little closer to the mic? Sorry. What's your name again?
Shannon Ennis
Shannon.
with Hampton District. And I'm kind of here representing all the essential working parents in the county. I really thank you for your comments and opinions. We are in a very tough situation. I'm fortunate that I probably can afford daycare. A lot of people can't, and I don't want to say that school is a daycare. I'm more concerned about my children falling behind when I'm at work and other parents are home being able to teach their children, whether it's successful or not. I don't have that option Monday through Friday. During the spring closing of school, I was playing catch up with my daughter on Saturday and Sunday mornings. You can imagine that small elementary children that I have aren't willing to kind of work in the evening once you get home after work, just like you, they're exhausted. So I just would like to, I know that there's been mention of some people being able to do a 4-day work week, and I'd like to see what that criteria would be for everyone in the community to kind of put us working parents at ease. I also have had my children at CCLC since May when they reopened. The children there, I do believe children should wear masks by coming back to school. I'm not saying that. I just want to let you know that they have successfully been meeting since May and have daycare there for babies up until 12-year-olds, and it's been working out wonderfully. Only the teachers there are required to wear masks, of course, because their children are so young. But it's been, I feel, a great success, and I think that's something to look at. So I think that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good feedback. Is there anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Beth Gaynor, I'm also in Larry's district.
Can you come closer? Sorry.
Beth Gaynor? Oh, that's too loud. I also just wanted to hit a little bit on what Lenny said and what Cassia said on if there was a virtual option, is that only for people who are considered vulnerable, or is it for anybody who that would work out better for their families? In regards to the virtual Virginia, whether or not that's in an all virtual situation or taking that while still coming to school, there are classes that I think are better met through virtual Virginia, which is set up to do it this way already, than doing a hybrid class, such as a chem class that Cassia has to take that has a lab component that goes back and forth. It's very difficult, I think it's going to be, to do it hybrid. Yet virtual Virginia has online labs. They're already set up to handle this kind of situation. Unfortunately, right now, the way it's set up, you cannot get enrolled in the virtual Virginia class unless it's not offered at the school, or you have special circumstances such as you've been in band so many years and you haven't been able to take certain courses that you need. I would like to see that opens up some more so that we can get some of these kids who are in these type of classes into them without that restriction placed on it. I think that's important in this situation, that we kind of make it a little bit broader. I know that we can put 15 kids into every virtual Virginia course free of charge. I know there is a charge after that. depending on how many kids we put into it. So I'd like to see that we utilize it. My fear is if we do utilize it, everybody else is going to start utilizing this as well, and it's a first come, first served situation. So if the other districts get all their kids in and the classes get booked, we're out of luck. So if this is something that we're going to do, we need to step on it now and get these kids enrolled.
Yeah, good point. Thanks. Good. It's good to get close to the mic. That way everybody can hear, right? Not just us. It's good for everybody to hear. Anybody else tonight? If you have ideas, and you can reach out to your school board member or to administrator for tomorrow night's discussion, it's still good to reach out. Okay? So you have 24 hours. Not quite. No, you have 22 and a half hours to make that contribution. All right. Is there anyone else? Last call? All right. Public comments closed. We'll move on to action items. Entertain a motion. We approve the meal pricing.
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Grove. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Rubin. Is there any comments? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. So is there approval for the out-of-county tuition rate calculation for 2021?
So moved.
We have a motion from Ms. Bynum. Is there a second? Second from Mr. Grove. Any discussion? What a great value. That's what I'm going to say. It's like going to a private school for half the cost.
That is true.
It is. It's good. It's actually a pretty good deal if you're not in the county. And, all right. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. And so ordered. Is there a motion concerning the approval of the annual resolution pack?
So moved.
We have a motion from Mr. Grove. Is there a second? Huh?
That was Ubin.
What was that? Was that you?
That was Mr. Ubin who moved it.
Mr. Rubin said that.
Yep.
Mr. Rubin did.
Mr. Rubin, sorry. Motion was from Mr. Rubin. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second from Mr. Grove. Is there any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. I'm sitting too far away from everybody. That's my problem. Approval of the policy changes, the entire slate of policy changes.
So moved.
We have a motion from Ms. Bynum. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Meyer. Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. So ordered. Can we get a motion to approve the VSBA delegate?
Ooh.
So moved.
Can you get that? Mr. Rubin says yes to Larry and
I'll second
we have a
that.
second from Ms. Bonham. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you very much for doing that.
I do have could I ask one quick question about the tuition?
Okay.
Do we need to approve the, if you work in, the,
it's still standing until you revise it.
we don't have to do that each year?
No, you don't. The
Right.
non-resident tuition rate.
That's what I was looking for, non-resident tuition rate.
That applies to staff.
Good, okay. I
Right.
just want to make sure we still have that in.
Right. All right, 9.1, new business. I thought it'd be neat to make sure, because it's almost like we didn't even do anything, but we had graduation, right, Jimmy? Yeah. What a great time. And it was a lot to put together, a lot of planning, and I think the graduates themselves appreciated it. And I thought it went really well. And so it was a lot of hard work to get it together, a lot of details, a lot of tears by a few people, but a great event for them. Caught in the middle, caught in the twilight zone, right? So anyway, well done.
Thanks for the popcorn.
And the popcorn machine. All right. Is there any other new business tonight?
Yes, Mr. Mills, I just wanted to share with you and the board remarks that I made at the Eldon Farms gathering in support of Black Lives Matter. It was a peace and justice gathering, and it was all local, and I just think that it was sort of an important event in our community. I think that there are a lot of misconceptions about the larger national group, and I wanted to just share the remarks because it's important about how we're progressing as a community. One of the students who spoke was actually the student body president when I first became a school board member, and she gave me my first tour of the high school. It was organized by an alumni of Rappahannock County Schools. So I just wanted to share it because I'm talking about history. I wanted to start by saying that Black Lives Matter. In our country, we have seen too many instances of Black people being treated rudely, unfairly, excessively violently, and even dying in the custody of some who are supposed to protect and serve us all. The violence needs to stop for us to be whole as a society. As a student of English, I know that by saying that Black Lives Matter, I'm not saying that Black lives are the only thing that matter or the only lives that matter. But right now, it's important to stand against the systemic and societal racism that has blighted our beloved country since before its founding. As I was thinking about what to say, my brother, an education professor, shared this quote from an interview with an African-American filmmaker, Ava DuVernay. A lot of white people are asking me, what do I do? And my answer is, educate yourself. There have been white allies throughout the history of America who have gotten together and come up with muscular strategies for change. Many of them have worked. Trust me, there's something to do right where you are. It's helpful, and I'm a big fan of learning, so I'm giving it a try. Starting out as I do my daily work on our farm in Sperryville, as I have for the last 20 summers here, I think about those who worked the soil before me. Going way back many thousands of years, indigenous people worked, possibly farmed, and hunted here. We have a shelf of arrowheads found in our fields to prove it. They were farming and living here for much, much longer than this land had been called the United States of America. I do wonder if any of their descendants are living and where they are now. It gives me a good sense of perspective. Thanks to good historical reporting by the Rappahannock News, I've learned that by the mid-1800s, there were more than 3,500 enslaved African Americans in Rappahannock County. It's very likely that the fields I farm today were worked by some of them. I imagine that the joyful, lucky feeling that I often have in the midst of the beauty of our farm, the feeling of freedom I experience in being my own boss, working hard of my own free will, doesn't resemble the feelings of those enslaved Black people who were the engine of great agricultural production at that time. These people lived as the property of their white owners and were a large portion of the population at the time. I recently learned, thanks to a great exhibit brought to our community by the Scrabble School Foundation, that many of these enslaved people joined the Union Army around 1863. These heroic Americans helped to win the war that ended slavery in America. They are heroes who push us closer to our American ideals of equality, freedom, and equal justice for all. There isn't yet a monument to them in our county, but maybe there will be one in the future. One of the first people I met when I moved to Rappahannock County in 1999 was Lillian Ayler, also a graduate of Rappahannock County Schools. She's related to some of those Union soldiers from Rappahannock. Her book, I'll Get It Done, A Life Journey in Rappahannock County, is a great read. And I'm grateful that she set it down so we can know some of the life and what it was like for her growing up in the community in Rappahannock County before, during, and after desegregation. She is truly a treasure. She was going to speak with our sixth graders in the spring, but didn't get the chance to do that because of COVID. One of the hardest parts of her book to read is the description of the racist harassment she experienced here, and that her kids experienced around going to school during integration. The shoving, name-calling, and daily chastisement she describes, her son and others enduring at Rappahannock High School have a new name now. It's called bullying. Most of the Black families who were in Rappahannock during integration aren't living in the county anymore. Many, I'm told, left for jobs that were unavailable locally. But I don't doubt that the rampant bullying and worse during integration contributed to the exodus of the Black community from Rappahannock County. Unfortunately, bullying, especially in the form of harassment based on race, gender, or sexual orientation, is a problem that persists today in and out of many schools, all schools. We know more and more just how damaging bullying is, and schools have anti-bullying programs to try to combat it. Bullying prevents people from participating in activities, learning, and succeeding, and creates stress and anxiety. It can cause long-lasting mental health problems and can even lead to suicide. Before people can learn, they need to have their basic needs met: food, shelter, and safety. Students who feel unsafe and unvalued by their peers aren't set up for success. The mandate of our public schools is to serve everyone, and when bullying persists, we can't do that effectively. As a current member of our school board, I care a lot about creating a school culture, and we all do, that's welcoming and supportive of all students. The Equity Committee is a great example of that. I'm very aware that we have a shrinking school population and that we will need to attract families who might move to the county or who might already live here to come to our schools if we are to maintain and hopefully increase our population. Continually renewing our commitment to be a welcoming school community for all who come to Rappahannock is important. Rappahannock schools today are staffed with administrators and teachers who care about each student and try to foster a positive and inclusive school community. I've experienced this again and again firsthand through having my kids in the schools. Under the excellent leadership of Dr. Grimsley, we are working towards the goal of becoming a trauma-informed school. Staff regularly attends carefully planned professional development and participates in book groups together to keep learning and growing as teachers. The school climate surveys we participate in give us honest assessments by students about their feelings and experiences at school. We can use these tools to guide us towards improvement. In assessing the needs of our school community, last year the school board added a new school social worker to our staff, and we'll be adding another behavior interventionist in the fall. Having these professionals on hand will help us to meet the growing needs of our school population and help create a school culture that's better equipped to respond to our diverse students' needs. We have a full-time ESL teacher and fluent Spanish speakers on staff who serve a growing and thriving Latino immigrant population. As schools and as a community, we all need to prepare our kids to be able to participate fully in the big, diverse, always changing world that's out there. We want them to become lifelong learners who will be good citizens. As adults, we can all model learning and growing with the times. A part of good citizenship needs to include simply being able to empathize with a segment of our community that is currently in need of our support. We have nothing to lose and everything to gain by saying that Black Lives Matter. Having a community that shows a willingness to learn, change, and grow with the times will be a key to our success or our diminishment as a community. Just wanted to share that, and I appreciate the time. Thank you.
I believe that it's important for us to make sure the public knows our perspective, and I'm going to, Ms. Bynum and I are going to have to agree to disagree. I talked with her earlier in the week. We had written to one another. I told her I agreed with the sentence that Black Lives Matter, but I did not agree with the organization, and that I find the naming of the event that we had in Rappahannock unfortunate, because it brought along with it the agenda of an organization. And while I agree with the sentence, I cannot agree with the organization. The unfortunate naming brings along with it the idea of the disruption of the traditional family in America. It brings with it communist founders who will self-profess that they are trained Marxists. It brings along with it the idea of defunding the police. It brings along an idea of anarchy and autonomous zones where the police stations are taken over. It's unlawfulness, it's violence, it's rioting, it's destructive, and it is an unfortunate name to what it seems was a very peaceful event. And so while the intention might have been there, I believe that a school board member does not have a place to be speaking at a political event. This school board is an apolitical body, and we are not supposed to be taking part. Whatever it is that I agree with politically has not got any place in this body, which is why we will have to agree to disagree. And I believe that attending this thing and speaking as a school board member or promoting political ideas as a school board member is obtuse to our role. And I also believe that this district, this school district, is a model for equity. It has been for at least 20 years that I've been here, of treating all students equally. And I appreciate Dr. Bold leading this effort to make sure that that's still true and to uncover issues if there are issues. But it is a testament to our desire to provide equity to all students, equity. I appreciate Ms. Bynum's contributions on this board. I do. But this is one where it was obvious we were not going to agree. And I told her I was going to respond, so she's not surprised. But that is where I stand. And I will guard the apolitical nature of this body, because if I don't, we will become divided ourselves, right? And that will not be the best interest of the student. So I'm not sure if anybody else has any concluding remarks on the topic, because I'd very like to move on. Anybody else? Not going to touch it with a 10-foot pole? No?
I'll respond. I think you both presented both sides, and I think that's the way it should lie. We shouldn't continue to discuss and make it an issue when it isn't one yet. So, I sort of think let sleeping dogs lie.
All right. All right, well then we'll move. Is there any other new business this evening? No. Our next regularly scheduled school board meeting is August the 11th at 6:30 p.m. I guess we're going to be right back here so we can preserve, on the August the 11th, we're going to be in this room, right?
Yes.
And so we can preserve this distancing model for the time being, right? And the next meeting we'll have will actually be in the courtyard tomorrow night at 6:30.
Okay.
All right? At this time, we're going to be moving into closed session. We're going to be in closed session, it sounds like, could be quite a while. 30 minutes, let's say. Yeah? 30 to 40 minutes. And so we're going to be sequestering ourselves to a small room, and then we will be concluding closed session, coming back in here to certify that only things that were in the motion or things that were discussed. We will be making motions concerning personnel and when we come back, and then we will be adjourning. So if you want to hang out and wait for us, you're going to be here for 30 to 40 minutes is our estimate. No promises, right? All right, do you have the motion, Mr.?
I do. I move the board convene into closed session for the following purpose: to discuss and consider the appointment of staff for professional positions, classified positions, coaching positions, resignation of classified position, and a review of administrative leave pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711A1.
We have a motion for Mr. Grove. Is there a second? Second. Second for Mr. Ube, and all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, no. All right, we're going to take a recess while you guys have a chance to go home and we move. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you, everyone.
I think that was correct. Let me double check. I think that's how much it is per year. The new rate, yeah. 8172.26. Correct.
Sent this tonight.
Oh, okay.
First thing we need to do is certify that only things related to the motion that took us into closed session were things that were discussed in closed session. So let's, can we start here with you, Chris?
Chris Euban certifies.
Rachel Bynum certifies.
Wesley Mel certifies.
Are certified.
Larry Grove certifies.
Thank you. During closed session, we were presented with a personnel report regarding vacancies in the system. I don't have that list in front of me right now, but it's basically alternative ed, teacher, instructional assistant, elementary school, second grade teacher, a bus driver, one resignation, Dixie Dodson, and a whole list of substitutes for the coming year.
Coaches?
and all the coaches, and the coaches are our returning coaches. But I think that how that gets implemented could vary because we don't know what sports is going to look like yet, and we should know tomorrow. So
We hope.
we hope.
Maybe, I got to check with the AD to see which time they're meeting tomorrow, but that would be great information to share tomorrow night.
It would
Absolutely.
be, yeah.
Absolutely.
I guess we're not sure. Because it's
Even
too-
if they're going to actually provide the plan, yeah.
All right, is there a motion to accept the personnel report as it was presented to us this evening?
Move.
We have a motion for Mr. Grove. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Rubin. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. So ordered. Also, during closed session, we reviewed a legal case, and I'll entertain a motion that we deny payment for admin leave for personnel case 2019-20-01. Is there a motion?
So moved.
A motion for Mr. Grove. That was Mr. Grove, right?
Yes, that was.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Meyer. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, no? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mr. Rubin? Who's second?
Second.
Oh, there it
I
is.
think Rachel beat you to it.
That's good.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no? We're adjourned. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming.